always thought betrayal would come with warning signs. Cold silences, late nights, maybe lipstick on a collar. But mine came wrapped in routine. Shared morning coffee. Peck on the cheek. A promise to pick up dinner. Instead, by noon he was gone. It started with a declined card at the grocery store. I stood there, fumbling with the app, thinking it must be a glitch. But the zero staring back at me wasn't a technical error. Our joint account, 3 years of shared rent, bills, vacation savings, was empty. Called him. No answer. Called again. Voicemail. Panic bloomed in my chest. I drove home, my fingers white-knuckled around the steering wheel. The door was locked. Inside, everything looked normal at first glance. Couch still warm, the smell of his cologne still in the air. But the closet told the truth. His clothes were gone. His side of the dresser empty. His laptop, chargers, toothbrush, vanished. I stood there, the realization pressing down on me like a storm. My husband, Michael, the man I married 5 years ago in a small church with fairy lights and mismatched chairs, had drained everything and disappeared. No note, no goodbye. Just silence and the hum of the refrigerator. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, knees to my chest, trying to piece it together. We had plans. A trip to Santorini. Puppy next spring. A new apartment. He kissed me that very morning. He said he loved me. That night I filed a police report. The officer's eyes flickered when I mentioned the missing funds. Unfortunately, he said, this happens more than you'd think. Our accounts had been in both our names. Legally he hadn't stolen, it was ours. He just took his half. Mine. Every penny. Even the emergency fund I'd squirreled away in a side savings account. He'd found that too. Over the next few days, pieces of truth unraveled like threads from an old sweater. He'd quit his job a month ago. Sold his car the week before. And according to a bank notification I missed, he wired most of the money overseas, to an account I couldn't trace. I was left with an apartment I couldn't afford, a phone filled with his old photos, and a heart shattered beyond repair. Friends said I should hate him. But hate required energy, and I had none left. Instead I started over. I sold the couch we picked out together, repainted the walls, and deleted every trace of him. I got a second job, worked late nights, and learned to sleep on my own side of the bed again. Months passed. One evening, while working at a cafe to earn extra cash, I got an anonymous letter. No return address. Just a single line written in his familiar slanted scrawl. I never deserved you. I burned it. Because closure doesn't come in letters. Or apologies. Comes when you realize your life is worth more than the person who abandoned it. And mine was just beginning. The days that followed were raw and strange. Grief comes in waves. And mine hit hardest in the quiet. In the mornings when I reached for his mug by habit. In the evenings when I came home to silence, instead of his playlists echoing through the walls. I kept asking myself the same question. Why? But no answer came. Not from him. Not from the bank. Not even from the therapist I finally started seeing after waking up from too many dreams that ended with him walking through the door like nothing had happened. I spiraled briefly. I won't pretend I didn't. I cried over bills. Screamed into my pillow. There were nights I stood in front of my mirror, barely recognizing the woman on the other side. Pale, thinner, and harder around the eyes. But slowly, painfully slowly, something changed. One Saturday morning I went to a community flea market, just to get out of the apartment. I started selling old clothes and used kitchenware, and bits of my former life. A woman with bright orange glasses bought the wedding vase I once adored. She asked me if I was getting divorced. I told her the truth. She didn't pity me. She laughed dryly and said, "You're lucky. You found out before you wasted more time." And something about that stayed with me. So I kept selling. And the flea market booth turned into a pop-up shop. Then an online store. I learned how to ship, to brand, to hustle. I turned heartbreak into inventory. Regret into revenue. One night, almost a year after he left, I got a message on Instagram. It was a photo of him. Sitting in some cheap bar in Bali or Thailand. Smiling, thinner and drunk. Came from a stranger. No caption. Just the image. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because I wasn't her anymore. The woman he'd walked away from. I wasn't crying over him in a grocery store or sitting in the dark waiting for closure that would never come. I had become someone stronger. Someone sharper. Someone who rebuilt herself from rock bottom without a hand to hold. The apartment is smaller now, but it's mine. My business isn't huge, but it's growing. And my bank account. It's locked down tighter than Fort Knox. But more than that. My heart is mine again. He took everything when he left, but he also gave me something I never saw coming. Freedom. And I've never felt richer. There's a strange peace in rock bottom, because once you're there, you stop fearing the fall. The truth is, I stopped waiting for apologies, for karma, for explanations. I realized that no closure he could offer would undo the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation of knowing the man I trusted most had planned his escape while I was making dinner and folding his laundry. But life has a way of moving forward even when you're stuck. That fall I went back to school part-time. I had always dreamed of studying design, but I'd shelved it for practical things we had planned. Mortgage, kids, stability. But with nothing left to lose, I took the risk. I enrolled in night classes, used a grant and some freelance work to scrape by. I worked till my eyes ached and my fingers cramped. And slowly, something else began to grow inside me, pride. Not the kind born from perfection, but the kind earned through survival. Through learning how to fix a leaking sink without YouTube. Through saying no when my parents offered to bail me out because I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. My own. I stopped wearing my wedding ring, not because I lost faith in love, but because I realized it didn't define me. I started saying yes to new things. Salsa classes. Rooftop book clubs. Spontaneous weekend road trips with girls I once only waved to in passing. And somewhere in all that I laughed again. Genuinely. Loudly. Without bitterness. Then one winter night I saw him. I was walking out of a gallery show where one of my interior concepts had just been featured. I was high on adrenaline, my cheeks flushed from compliments and wine. And there he was. Cross the street. Standing beneath a flickering streetlight like a ghost who never expected to be seen. He looked smaller. The suit he wore didn't quite fit. He had a tired look in his eyes. Not sad. Just hollow. We made eye contact. For a second I thought he might come over. But he didn't. And I didn't wave. I turned, stepped into my car, and drove away without a second glance. Because he was no longer the storm in my life. Just a weathered chapter in a book I'd already closed. Today my shop is thriving. I design spaces for people rebuilding. Newly single moms, recovering addicts, survivors of all kinds. I pour pieces of myself into every wall I paint and every room I help shape. 'Cause I know what it means to start over. Rebuilding. Newly single moms, recovering addicts, survivors of all kinds. I pour pieces of myself into every wall I paint and every room I help shape. 'Cause I know what it means to start over. I still get questions from people. Don't you want to sue him? Would you take him back if he apologized? Do you ever wonder if he regrets it? Here's the truth. Mo, and maybe. But I don't. Because while he took the money, he never got the best parts of me. He didn't stay to see me rise. But I did. And that's more than enough.